So what we are going to share with you today is in twofold. One is how to improve efficiency in terms of your feeding management operations. And the second aspect is how you can actually use that operation aspect of your school or operational department to actually market your school to attract parents, especially with schools that are dealing with a lot of children in terms of the age level, which is the preschool department, because at that age, parents are very, very picky in terms of what their children eat. I can speak from my experience and tell you, there's not a single day that when I'm interacting with my kids, I don't ask about what they ate in school. And what I found in some cases is parents will hear something that is different from the child than what the school actually thinks the parents should know. And that boils down to lack of communication between the school and parents. So we want to share with you what we have seen across different schools, how to optimize the feeding department or canteen management to increase your profitability, as well as use the same operations to attract parents to your school. Now, there are different categories of challenges that usually comes about when parents or schools are interacting around the feeding operations. One of the things is, let me give you a typical example of what I've heard recently from a customer. They send the menu out or they post it on a board at the beginning of the term. But here's a case where our agricultural products we have in our market is seasonal. So you have a menu that you've crafted at the beginning of the term that this is what we are going to use. Then you print it out, attach it to the bill, or you give it out to parents. But then because of drought or something happens or supply chain challenges, you don't have a lot of yam in the market. So you have to change the menu, and yet you don't communicate to the parents that you've changed your menu. So when a parent then hears that the child is supposed to eat yam, and yet the child is eating benku, automatically the parent feels that there is some kind of a kululu, or it boils down to miscommunication, or the school is trying to cheat them. But it's really not the case. It's just that the market conditions have changed, and therefore you have to also change your menu. But because everything that most schools do is on paper and is on manual basis, is on manual communication, this communication never filters down to the parent. So at the end of the day, the parent then is upset. Then you look at the situation in terms of the collection of the feeding fee. What we have learned from different departments of schools is there's a challenge in some cases with leakage, or in some cases with misunderstanding that I have paid or have not paid. We're going to talk about that. And then, of course, reconciliation, so that you know where you stand, whether the operations of school canteen management or feeding is beneficial for your school. We have seen in some schools where they have given up, they've raised their hand that we can't do this, and they outsource it completely to a third party for the third party to manage. So that's the topic of today. So let's talk about the process. This first area in regard to the feeding and operations. For some schools that we have seen in our customer base is that they don't even communicate the menu because they don't want to put themselves in a bind where they said that they are going to feed the children yam, and then there's a shortage of yam and they don't communicate. Therefore, parents are upset that they're feeding their children benku. And to me, that is the first step in losing an opportunity to set yourself or set your school apart. Because if you actually use this menu publication as a way to entice parents or non-parents to let them know, or let the market know that for your school, you actually do provide these foods to the children. You'll be surprised in terms of which parents or category of parents from economic class that will be more interested in attending or bringing their children to your school, because they will look at it as an opportunity that, okay, they do communicate what the children is eating, and since what my child eats is important to me, I want my child to be in such a school, comparatively to a school that does not communicate at all. But the communication must be effective. That's the first thing, because you can communicate without it being effective. So the example I gave you earlier is a school will design or come up with their menu. Then they print the menu and give it to every child to take home, or they give it to every parent, or they post it on a board. But here we are with, modern families, two family home, both parents working. That communication is not effective. And also it is rigid in the sense that when, as I indicated, you have to change the menu, the communication breaks down. So communication must be effective by one being timely, meaning when the parent needs it is when they get it. Not the example that I've seen in some areas or some organizations is we did the communication. We did, then you ask, okay, I didn't see it. It's like, oh, we sent it last month. Well, people have lives, and as a as a service provider, you have to use this as opportunity to set yourself apart by communicating what they need when they need it, rather than trying to take the approach of we have done our job, so deal with it. That's, to me, is an opportunity that is being missed by a lot of schools, because even how your menu looks like is important. How you make it stand out in terms of the food items or the images used in itself is a marketing tool. However, you can see a menu that's posted on the board and it's just bullets. To me, I think that is an opportunity really for schools to leverage and advertise how different they are in order to attract the right type of parents or the parents that they are seeking. Because such parents who care about what their children are eating in the school will definitely come across this menu. And when they do come across it, depending on how appealing it is, I'm definitely sure that it will attract one or two to add on to your population. So timeliness of the communication is something that schools need to look at, because the timeliness is dependent on the means in which you use to communicate to your parents, meaning how you communicating the menu to your parents, and then also when you are communicating it. Are you communicating it in the beginning of the term and then expecting them to remember in after midterm when you have changed the menu? And also the content in the menu is important. The food items, the images, the design. I think all of that, if you look at this slide that I'm sharing, the images alone makes it feels different. If I have just put these in bullets, obviously, visually, it will not communicate well to you. It's the same principle that you have to use when you are communicating to your parents. Let use some visual aspect of what you are going to serve the children. Let it stand out. Let your school stand out. That way, when the menu get to drop in someone who is not a parent in your school, they will be enticed to bring their child to your school. So the communication needs to be effective. The other aspect of it is collection of their feeding. This is where we see a lot of challenges. There are two aspects to this challenge. One is the payment options and the other is the payment channels. Payment options, we have seen schools that provide feeding payment option in terms of daily, weekly, monthly, termly. In such a scenario, you have a lot of reconciliation at your hand. So you need to have a blend, what works for you. Just because you've seen a different school that have a different parent economic class, using a certain payment option does not necessarily mean it will work the same for you. So if you are if you're dealing with parents in a higher economic class, usually they would like to pay, the lowest level will be monthly or termly. If you are in a school where you have your economic class is more on a middle to lower level, you need to give them more options in terms of whether they're paying weekly or monthly. Now, from my observations across multiple schools, I have seen that the daily option is what makes a lot of headache for a lot of schools, because the daily means you create room for opportunity to dispute between yourself and the parent, especially when those daily options are also being collected in cash-based payment. This, in my recommendation, is the worst option to go for, because that cash collection on a daily basis would definitely create a disagreement between yourself and parents, since you have to reconcile and track on a daily basis. Now, we know that your staff that you have may one day be off because of illness and someone else have to fill in. That particular day, all activities that happen on that daily basis will be off. Reconciliation will become difficult, and it then end up piling up or carrying forward. That will make opportunity or create opportunity for the parent to be disgruntled and upset because they have paid or not paid, but there's no records of such. So your payment options needs to be looked at. You need to look at based on from your economic class of parents that you are dealing with. And our recommendation is always to give the 3 options, weekly, monthly, and avoid the daily option, because the daily option always, in our cases that we have come across, always due to reconciliation creates challenges. The second thing here is the means in which you are collecting the payment. That is the payment channel. Now, obviously, Ghana has evolved quite rapidly for the past 5 years, where adoption of cashless payment has become the norm in urban centers, but those that are not in urban centers are different. Obviously, that still remains to be cash-based economic situation in outside the urban centers. But if your school is in an urban center, which is city or a sub-community, cashless payment will be your best friend, because that gives parents convenience, and it also gives you convenience for reconciliation or efficiency in reconciliation. Now, one may look at the process in which the payments are collected or made by parents. If the parent is doing a direct transfer to your Momo wallet, that also can create a reconciliation challenge, but there's ways around it which we are going to show you. And then, so these 2 areas need to be looked at in terms of what it will work for you. The best option or recommendation that we always give our customers is the payment option, the lowest level you should go is weekly. And then for the channels, you should go for cashless payment. The cash option should be something that is, you don't even advertise to parent, but when it does happen, you quietly accept, and then that becomes less than 1% of your payment channels that was being used by parents. But if you encourage or openly accept cash, you are opening yourself up for reconciliation challenges and also possibly leakage in terms of that. Now, in terms of, now you've gone through the process, you've identified which payment options and which payment channels you want to use. You are then doing your communication effectively to your parents, and how do you then track and make sure that you are maximizing your revenue or profitability in terms of that operation. What we have seen is tracking of which child ate, when they ate, what did they eat is very difficult. It's not easy, because obviously when children are in a group approaching the canteen area, it's usually chaos. However, what if there is a solution that you can actually leverage to make sure that it's easier for you to track? What we typically see in twofold. One is some parents have given up, or some schools have given up to say, you know what, if the child came to school in attendance record, we can assume the child ate, but that's not the case. But for some schools, they are tracking where they actually will print out a list of students, and when a child eats, they tick on a paper in the canteen area to say this child came to eat. Now, for schools where they offer different options of menu or food items per day, that can even be difficult to know what exactly the child ate. So these are things you need to consider. But in most schools, we see 90% roughly where there's only one item the child is offered to students. So the ticking of a sheet of paper for which child ate is a good step in the right direction. But how are parents knowing that information? How are they getting that information that my child actually ate? And when you get to the upper, level of the students, which is the upper primary and JHS level, we know they are humans and they can lie. So when they get home and they ask, what did you eat? A student can say, I did not eat today. Nothing was offered. But if you have records, evidence of child eating, that exonerates your school for you to be able to make sure that parents are also aware what the child ate for that day without you having to do a manual communication to parents. So reliability in tracking is very important. So for the schools that have given up because it is too difficult to track or it's too chaotic to track which child ate on which day, I think they need to rethink that because it has risk component to it. The risk is if a child is allergic to a food and you assume that the child ate, but it really didn't happen in your school, it happened somewhere else. How do you prove that the child didn't eat a particular food in your school and therefore the allergic reaction the child has is not a result of you feeding the child? Because you have parents where the child will come to school the following day, or the child is sick with some stomach bug or stomach running stomach, and the parent can only assume the child ate in that school, but meanwhile the child that day may not have eaten in the school. So how do you prove that? And so tracking is very, very important in terms of knowing which child ate for a particular day and making that information transparent to parents. It's also very fantastic because the parents then, it builds trust so that you are not have to be in a defensive position to then prove that the child did not eat a particular food item that caused a particular illness for that particular child. So tracking is important. I understand it is very chaotic when you let the students lose out of the class to go to the canteen area, but it is something that must be done because it is for your own interest. And it also is in your own interest in terms of the risk to the children in terms of what they are eating, if there's any allergies or if there's any food poisoning. And also it is into your interest because you need that information to build trust if it's accessible to parents and for reconciliation, which is the next thing. How do you track and make sure that you are actually profitable? This is where it comes in, right? It boils down as a school, you are a business. You are not a charity. Feeding is not a charity. It's something that you run as part of your operations to maximize the profitability of your school, and therefore it must be profitable. When you are purchasing stock, are you tracking it? When you are the payments, obviously you do track, but again, how you track it based on the payment options and the payment channels, as I indicated, is important. Then you tracking who is eating. Are you tracking that? Because these data points are what will give you a clear sight to how profitable you are in terms of that particular operations in your school. When you are not tracking this information, you are essentially leaving room for guesswork, meaning that you will not be able to determine even or budget or forecast in terms of how profitability you are and also what revenue or cash flow you need in order to plan ahead. When that is not being done, pretty much you are leaving yourself up for guesswork, you're leaving yourself up for leakage, you're leaving yourself up for opportunity for dispute. So what we have come up based on all these experiences and information that our customers have shared with us, what we have identified is an end-to-end solution that will make schools feeding and canteen management operations a lot more efficient, a lot more profitable, and also a lot more effective for parents, because a happy parent obviously means that they are easier to recommend your services or your school to another parent. So that's what we want to share with you, what services or what solutions we have in place in order to address all these areas. So let me switch to our platform so that I can share with you a few of how the application works. Okay. So the first step in the canteen management operation is knowing which parents are interested in your feeding program. This is our platform that we offer schools, which is the InfoView Sense platform. It comes with a lot of features, but today we are focusing only on canteen management and operations. So the first step is knowing parents that are interested in subscribing. In our platform, we have a solution or a feature. I'll use a feature called School Management Forms that allows you to create any form. It's more like a Google form, any form, and then share the form with parents, and then let parents fill the form so that they can communicate to you whether they are interested in your feeding program or not, because feeding is now mandatory in majority of schools. It's an optional service that you provide. So here is an example of a feeding form that I have created for this particular fictitious school called InfoView Academy. Now this form allows the parent, so here, let me go back. You can copy the form link. When you copy the form link, say copy the link, you can then send the link to the parent, or you can share the link by typing the parent name here or the parent email, and then being able to select the parent's name here, and then send the link to the parent easily through the system. So the system will send a link to the parent through SMS and also through email. And then the parent will, when the parent clicks on the link, it will open this particular form. Once the parent opens the form, they will choose the term that they want to subscribe for their child. They'll choose the children or the particular child they want to subscribe. So they select the child name, and then they can put their own name. Once they do that, they go to the next step, and then they can choose the particular payment options, or I'll say feeding option that they want. Now this form is customizable. What you're looking at here is not a rigid form that is in the system. I just created this on the fly in 5 minutes. So the parent will choose which feeding option they want, weekly, monthly, or yearly. They choose the particular option that they want, and then they can indicate if the child has any allergies. They put the allergies here. Let's say the child is allergic to let's say, yeah, and then they can write up any additional information that they want. Now, as I indicated, this is not a rigid form, or this is not a form that cannot be customized. You can actually customize it. So to customize it or to create one for schools that already use our system, you go to school forms and you can select a category to say school administration forms, and you click on new form, or you use the existing one. So the existing one I created is this one. And here I can add new questions. So I can add a new question here where I can say, okay, whatever additional information I want the parent to provide when they are subscribing to the feeding. Now, once the school receives the subscription of all parents who are interested, they can run a report here and review the particular term or the parents that have indicated. That's one first step. Second thing you also need to think about is the allergies that are indicated is important, because that is a way for you to avoid the risk of feeding the child what they are not supposed to. So when you are admitting a new student, our system allows you to collect allergic information from the parent. So here is the enrollment of student process. You fill in the student name, you fill in the class the child is going to, you upload their picture or the child's picture. You go to the next step, you fill in the parent details or the parent details. And then we have a step where you can actually customize the particular medical information about the child. So here, for example, I customize this medical details that I want to use when we are adding a student to this fictitious school to say I want to collect up to 3 food allergies if the child has any food allergies. So the first one is food allergy 1. You collect the name of the particular food that the child is allergic to, the details of that, and let's say the child is also allergic to yam. So you can say yam here, white yam, that the child is allergic to. And then you can indicate that, student is allergic to white yam. And the whole slew of other medical information that you can collect about the child. So that also goes into the child's record that you can use at the time of feeding or planning your meals. So that's 2 areas that you are gathering information at the time when the parents are subscribing, if the child is allergic to any food, and also as part of the enrollment, when you're admitting a new child, you also gather information. And that helps with the canteen area when they are planning their meals to make sure that these particular foods are avoided, or that these particular students that are allergic, this is an alternative that you need to offer them. So that's something it's important that you need to track. Now, apart from the enrollment process, let's look at how the menu, you use the system to create your menu. So to create a menu, you go to the system. If those on on this call that are already customers, it's called canteen or feeding. When you go there, let me start from scratch. So if I type canteen here, I click on it and it will take me to the canteen management area. Here I can create a menu by selecting menu. I'll choose the branch. If your school is multiple branches, I'll choose the branch and then I'll choose the term. Once I choose the term and the branch, I can then create a menu for breakfast, lunch, supper, dessert, snack, or other. So it gives you the ability to plan the meal for an entire full course day, or say 4-course meal for that day, and then also indicate which particular classrooms or departments that this meal is for. For example, the preschool department may have a different menu. So that means you can create a menu for nursery and kindergarten differently. And it also gives you ability to create a menu for, let's say, lower primary and upper primary differently, and create a different menu for the JHS or secondary level. So this menu planning feature allows you to be able to plan all your menus. So right here, I have created just lunch. I can choose to add, let's say, snack as a menu. So I click on add multiple, and then I'll choose for Monday, I want to add snack. So I click on snack, and I'll choose Monday snack will be, let's say, cookies. And then I'll add another one, which will be Tuesday snack will be, let's say, candy, right? Let me add here candy. And I'll add another one, Wednesday snack will be, let's say, fruits. And I can choose another one, let's say Thursday snack will be whatever. I can put here, let's say, drink, Coke, or something. And then I can say, when I start submit, now the menu has been updated for this particular department, for this particular term, and for this particular group of students in kindergarten. Once I have done that, you can then send this menu to parents. Okay, so I can click on generate menu. When I click on generate menu and it generates a printout, it will generate the menu or generate a printout version of the menu for me without having to worry about manually creating it. So now here I've created a menu. Simple as that. This menu template is customizable per school. So your school menu, you can add different images that you want to the menu. So it's showing Monday menu snack, is showing Tuesday the lunch and snack, is showing Wednesday the lunch and snack, is showing Thursday, blah, blah, blah. So this menu, how it looks visually, you can add more images to make it appealing and enticing so that it becomes very something that if a parent shares with another parent, automatically, you are communicating something that different about your school. Once I have generated my menu, I can then choose to send the menu to all parents. by simply going to notification. I will select the type of communication. I'll select school-wide. But if the menu is for, let's say, only preschool, I'll choose the specific classes in the preschool department and then choose to attach the menu that I just downloaded, which is this menu. Now, if I click on the menu, I'll attach it and I'll type a message, dear parent. Here is the menu for the month of May. Once I do that, I choose to say this is general message, and I can send the menu through SMS, email, or both SMS and email, and I click send. All parents in this selected class will receive the menu. If the menu is for the entire school, I just select the entire school and send the menu to parents. So that makes it easy. Whenever the menu changes, you just simply go in the application, in the application, and then you just make a change to the menu, and then you just generate a new printout and send it out to parents without having to give paper to children to take home. That's one way to make sure your communication is effective. Another way also is you can put the menu in the system. When you put the menu in the system, it also shows in the parent mobile application, which comes as part of the service we're offering, where the menu will be accessible to parents. Now let's go to the payment side, which is very important, obviously. So let me share here. This is my phone screen. When a parent logs in to the application, so I can, let me show the parent app. This is the parent application. When a parent logs into the parent application, they will see the child or children that is in your school, and the parent that has been billed for feeding based on the option, that payment option that they chose, will be able to see the bill instantly on their parent application. In this application, the parent can see the canteen menu. So here, the menu that we created, the parent can see that. And also the parent can choose to pay the bill when they are also, you bill them for feeding. So here is a feeding bill for 1 week. So if I click on it as a parent, I would then be able to make my payment using any of these cashless payment options, either through a card, bank card payment, credit card or debit card, using AT mobile money, MTN mobile money, or being able to use Telecel. All these options are available for parent to pay. Once they pay you through any of these options, that's based on the billing. The parent can also, just in case they didn't subscribe at the beginning of the term, and in the middle of the term, they all of a sudden want their child to start eating, the parent can click on other payments. Without you creating a bill, they click other payments. They can click canteen and transport. And here, they can choose to now subscribe by making a payment, where they choose lunch. And even when they tap on it, they can indicate the particular days they want to pay for the feeding, which is 3 days I've chosen here. And then based on that, the parent will put the amount they're paying 1 week, and it automatically shows the amount. Parent will then have the ability to choose the payment mode, which is, let's say, MTN mobile money. They'll put their mobile money wallet number and then automatically pay for the payment for the particular feeding. This gives you that flexibility where if you are not billing students ahead of time because you don't want them to subscribe, you can tell parents to directly make payment for feeding. And this information is what you will use to determine which children needs to be fed for a particular period. So here is the report for that, where you can run to see all the children that have paid for feeding. So if I go on a report in the system called external payment report, if I run this report, it shows me all children or payments that have come in through the parent mobile application, which payment channel did they use, when they paid it, all the data is accessible to you. And in addition, there is a report for you to run in terms of when they are actually being fed. So when they are being fed, first question is, how do you track the children that have eaten? There are 2 ways. This option here, when you run this report, shows you only the children that have eaten, and therefore you can take the child that they ate that particular period. However, there's also an option where you can use the mobile application to be able to scan student ID cards. And for our customers, you already know that every student, the system generates an ID card with a QR code. So let me use this example. This child. If I search for this child and click on this child's name and goes to that child's dashboard, it shows the child's ID card, this which comes with a QR code. Now here, if you want to automate and make your life easier, because the tracking of which child ate is so difficult because it's manual process, you can issue an ID card for every child. When they come to the canteen department, the canteen department will simply scan the child's ID card. So here, let me show you where I will scan this particular child's ID card. Here is the mobile application, and the canteen department will have this particular special version of the application on a mobile device. When they type canteen, they can see here it says canteen and feeding. They tap on that and they can click record canteen. When they click on that, there's an option that says scan to record. When the canteen department clicks on the scan, it turns the device camera into a scanner where they can then easily scan the child's ID card here. They scan, once they flash on it, automatically it scans the child that the child has paid or have not paid, and also they can just click on record and it records the child that the child has eaten for that day. Very easy process. The other option is if you are using a manual paper process to record or tick which child ate, you can have that paper with you and your staff can record that information by simply coming here, and then they can indicate the class. Let's say they choose all the classes and they run a report. They can see which children, and then they just simply tick the children manually in using the computer version of the application to indicate which child ate. Both information, which is the information of payment and the information of tracking which one ate, the system automatically does the reconciliation for you using this report called the daily fee reconciliation. Here it compares lunch, those that ate, against your population or attendance for the day, as well as your feeding tracking data that you did, and gives you the amount of money you are expected or you received for tracking or recording those that ate, the amount of money you actually collected in the past or from payment, and then if there's any gaps. This gives you an automated reconciliation of comparing three data, which is those that have paid for feeding, those that you have recorded that they have eaten, and then your attendance, which is the daily attendance of students that were present that day. So they can automatically see any discrepancy between the information that you have and easily pinpoint where there is inefficiencies to be able to optimize your feeding process. There are multiple different types of reports you can run in the system as well to be able to track the feeding. Another one is the school revenue report, where you can easily be able to track all the revenue collected from feeding perspective. So this sums up the demonstration part of it. I would like to invite one of our customers who heavily use this feature efficiently that we have seen comparatively to a lot of our customers to share their story in terms of how they are using the InfoView platform to optimize and also maximize their profitability at the Baby Nest School. Elfrida, are you with us?
Yes, please, I'm on the call.
Okay, Elfrida, can you share from your perspective how you have optimized your canteen operations at the Baby Nest?
Okay, so good afternoon, good morning, everyone. So I think Jeff has spoken a lot, and we at the Baby Nest have explored the two options of either the parents paying weekly or the parents paying monthly. So we tried the weekly one as first, whereby, as Jeff said, you select the number of days the children have eaten and then they pay the bill. But we moved from that to the monthly one, which was more effective for us because of inflation. And then sometimes you just go to the market and then things are not as it is. So currently we are using the monthly option whereby we bill the children on a monthly basis. And in regards to payments to the parent just go onto the app. If it's canteen fees they want to pay, they just select it on the app, and then they pay. In terms of the menu Jeff has also spoken about, the menu is posted weekly on our school canteen. So on the app, we encourage the parents to use the app more often. So they check weekly to see what you've posted on weekly basis. So as said, it's lunch and it goes with the dessert, which is the fruit. So when the parent logs onto the app and goes onto the school canteen side, you see the weekly the weekly menu there. And the good thing about the app for us is that we are able to plan in terms of even go back into the system and retrieve other terms menus as well. So in terms of, if let's say, oh, when plantain wasn't in season, what did we do at this time? We wouldn't sit to crack our brains, but just fall back on the data we have, and then we planned for the menu. In terms of allergies, as also said, it's also keyed into the system. So in case maybe there's an update. So for instance, a child has been eating granule soup for a very long time, and then for, let's say, for in a month continuous, the child is now reacting to it. The notification is sent to parents as well, and then they see how best to treat whatever is happening to the child. So I think most of the things Jeff has spoken about is what we do here at the baby nest. It's convenient, it's easy, and then it's much more. It saves time. It just saves time. So for us, I said we have moved from the weekly one to the monthly one, which is working for us perfectly. So well, we will entreat all other schools or stakeholders to also look into that as well. Thank you.
All right, thank you very much, Elfrida. So this gives time for anyone that have any questions in terms of what we have shared. If you need further explanation on what we have shared, so that we can answer all your questions from our side, as well as maybe questions from Elfrida perspective as a user of the platform.
Thank you, Jeff and the team. My question is, so I mean, during the presentation, Jeff, you mentioned that depending on the economic level of your parents, that you have from the explanation and from what Frida shared, that's the way to go. But if you have a system where the parents are more used to the daily situation, how do you, first of all, put the system, get the daily running, and then with time, I mean, within a period, you can shift them to probably the weekly, and then later on go to the monthly. So if we're doing a daily one because of the economic level, and then two, if you don't have a lot of your parents, even though you've mentioned a couple of times for them to use the app, for some reasons, even though they do WhatsApp and all that, they don't subscribe to get into the app. How do you still use this platform or the package? Thank you.
Sure. So as I indicated, and you rightly also said, the payment option should be looked at based from the economic category that you're dealing in terms of parents. If you are currently doing daily, I will say that first thing is the payment channel that should be avoided is cash. You must avoid cash completely from a daily perspective, because that 99.9% of time gives room for dispute between your school and the parent, because cash is taken and cash is not recorded, or it's not recorded. So that is something that you must avoid. That's if you don't have any other option in terms of moving away from the daily. Now, for my recommendation, what I've seen other schools do in terms of shifting from the daily, is all a matter of communication. And the communication needs to be consistent and not abrupt, meaning you need to, if term you are doing daily, you need to start doing the communication now that beginning first term, we are no longer going to be doing, and you need to be consistent with that communication and frequent, so that you are kind of wearing the parents down to the mindset that this is no longer going to be something you will be offering, rather than you send a message once and you cut daily off. That is not going to be in your interest either, because that will also affect your ability to offer that service and make parents disgruntled, and also you also lose cash flow. So it's a long-term communication that you need to do it effectively, timely, and consistent, that you are switching from the daily to a particular payment option. That way you buy yourself room to market it well, communicate it well, and it will be well received when it's done that way.
Okay, thank you. But so how do I record that on the platform? That was the other leg of the question.
Record the daily on the platform?
So, no,
Sorry,
so just like after creating the form, I mean, just as you took us through the weekly option and all that, if I have to do the reconciliation and all, do I have to still go through the same process you did?
If you recording, maybe I misunderstand your question. Recording of payment or recording of that the child ate, which one? Can you be clear on that?
So both the payment and the child aid. So I noticed when you're going through the demonstration, after setting the form and how those in the canteen department could verify if the child has paid or not and all that. So I'm saying that if for now I'm doing the daily option, but however I'm able to get them to pay cashless, what is the process different from what you took us through, or is basically the same?
It's basically the same. So if you are collecting cashless on a daily basis, the channel in which you are using to collect, I would recommend you use the GBook app. But if the parents are not using the GBook application, then whichever channel that you are using, you need to make sure that information flows into InfoView, so that the system can do the reconciliation for you of comparing payments against those that have eaten.
Okay. No. Okay. Thank you.
Okay. If there's no other questions, Julian, I'll give the mic back to you.
Thank you very much. At this point, we would like to extend a heartfelt thank you to an amazing speaker, Jeff. Jeff, thank you so much for delivering such insightful, practical strategies on managing school feeding this month. We would also like to extend a very big thank you to Frida from the Baby-Ness School for sharing with us how the school is optimizing feeding using services. If you're an InfoView customer and would like to activate these features, simply send a message into your WhatsApp support group, and your customer representative will contact you and schedule a detailed training session for your team. If you are not an InfoView customer yet, but would like to join the InfoView customer family, we'd love to hear from you. Call or WhatsApp us at 024-838-7629. So the same number you see on the screen, once more, 024-838-7629. Or you could email us at salesteam@idscorpgh.com. Finally, you can simply scan the QR code or use the link on your screen below to book a free demo. We'd be happy to walk you through how InfoView can transform your school. Thank you so much for joining us today. We truly appreciate your time and wish you a productive and restful day ahead. Thank you.